there's a whole lot of time left over to play and have a good time and have fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. Last week, we were talking about the importance of play, P.L.A.Y, with a feature on provoking a state change. So if you've successfully begun to play and you want to make a difference in perhaps the mundane routine of your day in and day out activities, interjecting that spice of life, that play, and when it's done successfully, it will provoke a status change. It will provoke a state change. And so today, for this day's episode, we're going to be talking about L, which stands for leads to a response. So the reason why we're bringing this up today is that when you've successfully played, we believe, or when you're actively in the moment of doing something that is a action versus rest, which is restorative, play is productive, play is creative, play will lead you to some form of a response. Like you should, when you go play soccer for the first time, or baseball, or football, or even when you sit down and draw, you should, like there should be something that wells up inside of you that goes, oh, this is different. Jeff, I was thinking about this as we were thinking about focusing on P.L.A.Y over the next 4 weeks. And I was thinking about the fact that it seems like the wealthier people, the people that have gotten to a certain accustomation of luxury and travel, they just seem like they're playing all the time. I mean, they just look happy. They look like they're playing. They're seeing resorts. Do you think that this is just like a highlight reel that they choose to share with us? Or do you think that that is a permanent state change that has come as a result of interjecting play into their daily life?
I think that the highest level of performance is attained for emotional reasons. It's not logical. It's not you don't think your way to a peak performance state. You act, you feel, you trigger, and part of what a great coach does for a great performer is find the emotional hot buttons that can be triggered to allow the player to eventually trigger themselves to get into that peak performance state. And it goes to a story that I read actually earlier this week. Novak Djokovic, who unfortunately this last week and a half ago was defeated for his 24th major championship title, and he would have been only the second player besides Federer and Bjorn Borg to have won 5 consecutive Wimbledons. He didn't win 5, he won 4, and he was defeated by Carlos Alcaraz, I think his name was. It was an incredible match. It was probably one of the top 10 all-time best
Wasn't it like
duels.
3 plus? How many hours?
Almost 5.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, there was one game that was 26 minutes. A game is normally a minute, maybe 2 minutes. If it's really long rallies, it might be 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes. This one game, just going from 3-4 to 4-4. I don't remember what the score was, but it just 3-4 in a set to 4-4 in a set. Took almost 27 minutes for one game. It was incredibly well. And then we get down to the middle of the 5th set, and it was 125 points to 125 points. They both were scored exactly. It was a really good matchup, and it was also pretty dramatic because Carlos had only played one tournament besides this Wimbledon on grass, and Djokovic is the reigning champion for the last 4 years, and had won 43 matches on grass undefeated. Consecutively, which is almost impossible feat. Again, I think only Bjorn Borg and Federer had done it. But I was reading an article, and I'll see if I can post it in the comments. That this is 2023. We're not right now. It's July. We just finished Wimbledon, first couple of weeks of July, and this article goes back to 2010. Djokovic was ranked number 3 in the world. He had won, I think he was the favorite for Wimbledon. He'd won a championship. I think he's 36 or 37 right now. So this is like, he's like 24. Right at the beginning of an incredible career in tennis. He's number 3 in the world. He's making millions of dollars. And he goes to his coach and he's like, I'm done.
Mm.
I quit. Can't do this anymore. Can't do this to myself. Can't do this to my family. And his coach, unperturbed, and this is exactly what I'm talking about as far as leading to a response. His coach says, why do you play this game? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, you started playing this game, so why did you start playing this game? And Djokovic is like realizing there's like a problem here. There's a problem with his narrative. And he says, I'm in a bad place at this point in the dialogue with my coach. And I had to think about it for a while. And then he says he gets to this point where a week or two into kind of deliberating and figuring out how did he start playing, that his earliest memories as a child were the feeling of holding his toy racket in his hand and playing with a small foam, very lightweight foam mock faux tennis ball. And that he said he just loved the feeling of the racket in his hand. And the coach says that. He says, do you still love the feel of the racket in your hand? He says, I do. He says, that's your thing. That's your aim. That's what's going to get you through this. Quit thinking about championships and won points and lost matches and defeats. Quit thinking about other people's expectations and values, which we're going to get into value stacking in a little bit. Quit thinking about all that stuff. That's not getting you anywhere. Think about the feel of the racket in your hand and how much you just love and adore.
So at some point, it's almost as if at some point he stopped playing and it became a job.
100%. Yeah. And I think so oftentimes when we think about taxes due or bills, or if you're in sales, the commit call coming up with your manager, or deals that are going sideways, or your boss, or if you're working a straight salary, the demands that just get piled on you. If you have layoffs and you have a reorg and you say, hey, I kept my job, except I get all the work that all the people got laid off have to do, and now I have to do that too, and my pay doesn't go up. All of these things have a tendency of driving us away from the fun leading to a response that we get when we remember the emotional reasons why we do stuff. And so I think about Djokovic, and by the way, Djokovic goes on after that, recommits to tennis, recommits to that feeling in his hand, that aesthetic of just feeling. And if anybody's hit a really nice forehand or a really nice backhand, when you hit that thing in the sweet spot, it's an incredible feeling to see that ball just go over the net and hit inside and have a winner, hopefully. But Djokovic goes on to become not just the number 1 ranked tennis player in the world, but possibly the best tennis player of all time. And if you go and look at the Stephen Dunier YouTube video, which I think I've mentioned that in the past, where he talks about, it's a TED Talk, and he talks about Djokovic makes a slight shift in his game time decisions, and he goes from basically winning 45% of his matches and 45% of the points to winning like 53% of his points and 90% of his matches, and his income goes from $200,000 a year, ranked number 680th, making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, to rank number 1 and making $17 million a year. And it was a slight shift in what he was able to do. Part of why we have to recognize the emotional connectivity to what we're doing and what the aesthetic, what got you into sales in the first place? What had you start to become a firefighter? Why did you become a Walmart store manager? Walmart store managers make $300,000 or $400,000 a year. Why did you become a Walmart store manager? What was it about retail, supply chain? When we're able to connect the dots on those emotional reasons for doing something, it allows us to push through the hard times when we're trying to get better and we meet resistance and we plateau out. You can actually push beyond that and then move to the next level.
Well, I know that when we've watched a lot of, just because of our nature, because of the fact that we love competition and we like to compete ourselves, we like to watch shows that
Tell you what,
involve
and Dr. Mario
competition. But I know that whenever we watch a show like a food, for example, food competition show where there's going to be some
Those
food
are
judged,
rigged.
the winning dish typically ends up being what the judges always boil down to. They can almost taste the love that was put into the dish. Like when when that dish or when that thing that's being presented is presented without thought, without care, without play, if you will, you can almost like taste it. Like you can sense when somebody is doing something. So not only does L mean leading a response for ourselves, I feel like when we're successfully playing, it provokes a response in others. When you're in an art
Totally.
museum
Yeah.
and you see a work of art like a Kuntz or a P.L.A.Y or something where somebody is clearly has been having the time of their life,
Yeah.
it reverberates out of the product of whatever it is that you have just presented.
I think we're
to
having the time of our
audience.
life right now. I think this podcast has felt like we're having the time of our life. I remember the first episode that we did. I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember being there and what it felt like. And it was like, this is all you got to do is sit and talk about stuff that's interesting,
Yeah.
ask questions, question things, consider alternative points of view, and have empathy for an audience.
And hopefully that the people that are
Seems fun to
listening
me.
and subscribing are feeling like we're giving our best selves, like we're playing, like this is play
Yeah,
for us.
I mean,
This
if we
is-
are stressed out doing this, like,
yeah.
yeah, find out what else we're
So
going to
then
do.
how do you handle, you and I were just talking about this offline just even a few hours ago. How do you handle that feeling like you're doing enough? Like when you're playing and successfully
just talking about
playing,
that
it
today.
doesn't feel like work. Like it's not.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
struggling with that.
hard.
Audience participants, I'm struggling with that right now because I feel like life has gotten really easy really fast for us. We're doing well. Opportunities.
It may seem
galore.
like it's happened overnight, but
It
then
really
if you
does.
look at it and you look back, like there's been a tremendous, you could look at our book library and see all of the books that have had to be read in order to get to this point. All of the equipment, excuse me, all of the hours of investigating on what type of equipment to purchase. Like it's been work, but it has been fun work to do. And I think that maybe the prime example from my standpoint as a woman who's had children, 9 months of labor is, 9 months of carrying a child and growing a child, it isn't necessarily debilitating, thank God, praise the Lord, work that I've had to be on bed rest for 9 whole months. Each
You've had
day,
good pregnancies.
one
You've
day at
taken
a
each baby to full
time.
term, except Nessie was a month
It-
early,
it-
but
it, you
everybody
know,
else was full.
One day at a time, the baby's growing. You don't even know for what 4 months before you even start showing. You have to tell people that you're expecting because it doesn't. There's no outward evidence of
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
but then one night, maybe you don't see a friend for a week, and all of a sudden the bump comes out, and now you're clearly pregnant, and then the months go on. But it's been going underneath the surface. We've been growing. We've been like little ducks, and we've been kicking our feet underneath the water for
I just
years and
paid
years and years.
$2,850 for brakes on my car today. I could not believe that. That's like twice the price of my first car.
So then how do you reconcile when you understand that there are principles at place? We teach the principles, we read the principles, we apply the principles, and you just blindly must trust those principles that play
Well, I don't
is
think
enough.
it's blind. I don't think it's blind because the principles, where do you get them from? You get them from wise people who are getting results.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got so many friends and mentors, so many people. I had a phone call today with a gentleman who I think last year or the year before was the #1 sales rep in his whole company. The company has 160,000 employees, of which 35,000 of them are salespeople, and we're talking about the #1 guy. And he told me about 3 huge deals, like $20 to $50 million deals that he got closed, one after another, all one each fiscal year, and had $4 million quota and closed a $45 million deal. in that. Literally finished over 1,000% of his number. But there were principles involved. And those principles are the same principles that I demand of myself and have demanded for 20 years. And it was like going to a foreign country and being immersed in people that nobody speaks English, and then you hear somebody call your name across the room, an expat who speaks perfect fluent English, or just somebody who's an expat on vacation having a conversation. I'm not talking about Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah.
2-hour plane flight to a quote unquote foreign country, which it is foreign, but everybody there is American. I'm talking about like going to Prague and everybody speaks Czech and French and Russian and Slavic languages, and then you hear somebody speak perfect English without, big Slavic, tough.
And I guess and that's a great example
Milo and
because even though it's
accent.
not work for you because you speak English, it would be work for them to attempt to speak
work for
English.
me to speak Czech.
Right. Exactly. And
Rozluček,
as you're
right?
talking, I'm thinking about, okay, for example, and leading to a response. I've been with you on the driving range for many hours
10
of
years
going,
of hitting balls,
listening.
3 and 4 days a week.
You will, and this has happened to you multiple times. You'll get up to the ball, you'll have your driver, you'll hit it, and the sound that hit makes, people turn their head. It leads other people to the response of, "Oh my gosh, what was that? That sounded amazing." And they'll come to you and they'll be like, "Show me what you." But my point being is, you can stand in front of the ball more often than not, pick a target, tee up, hit it 300 and whatever yards, 305 with your driver to a pretty narrow field of where you want it to go.
Yeah, sometimes.
And that has taken 20 years of play and practice. When I say play, I don't mean just messing around. I mean, like, it has been practiced to the point to where you can
I've been
do
playing golf
that.
for almost 40 years.
Yeah, you can do that. And it's not a surprise to you. But for somebody like me, I'm never going to be, I don't love it enough. Like, it isn't play to me to, like, get that good at it.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me to see that when we commit to what we want to, when we choose to want to play at something, it doesn't feel like work. Like, I don't think that you've regretted the 40 years that you've committed to going and doing the short game and doing driving range and
$50,000 to $100,000 playing tournaments over a 10-year period of time, which that's not like a smart financial investment if you're talking to your advisor, but it was something that I had to do. I wanted to do it so badly that I was willing to invest time and pain.
It
change
provoked
my diet,
a state change,
lifting.
and it led to a response, which is now not only can you stand up there and be confident that you're going to be able to hit the ball and tell it where it goes, but other people also come from all around to watch and see what you're doing. Yeah. And so to me, that is the very definition of play and play done successfully.
Look at your, we talk about this quite a bit, your projects. Jessica Builds, right? Her Instagram's Jessica Builds. And sometimes you'll get antsy. Yeah. You'll say, "I need the Home Depot credit card. Let's go. Let's go put
I got to build something.
$500, get some 2x4s and start building something."
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. You watch home shows, but I don't see you watching home shows and be just eating bonbons and watching home shows. I see you watching home shows like a velociraptor, trying to figure out how could I get a home show because I need to be on TV and I like those designs. I don't like that design. I wouldn't put that lamp there. I wouldn't do that. I would have done that. Change orders different. No, I don't like their stuff. No, I like this guy's stuff. Oh, these two are funny. Like you're tearing everything apart, and then you look for the reveal. And I mean, you've probably watched 2,000 episodes of home shows. That's not work for you.
No,
I mean it's work for me, but
that's
it's not my thing.
It's almost like
right?
watching for me.
Like you going to the driving range with me.
It's like how people can watch the chess tournaments, which to most people would think would be
no offense, but that would
boring.
Be difficult for me.
But there are people that can go like, I don't even know this. Andrew, do you know the squares like L1 to 4B or whatever? Do you know?
K. K for night. Night starts with a K. Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that
Yep.
through watching, yeah,
Yeah. That.
yeah, like Bobby Fischer or whatever, like, oh my
Forever.
gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm watching these shows like you would watch like I'm watching because we've been given the opportunity through media and through the through the evolution of home renovation. You can see a beginning, a before, and by the end of the episode, you have an after. Now, this has taken months, this has taken potentially years, but in a 30-minute episode or a 1 hour episode, you can see the evolution. You can see the beginning of the match, which is all the pieces on the board, to the end of the match, which is there's a winner, there's an end. And throughout the entire process, I'm looking at the moves and I'm seeing, well, this is where that should go and this is where that should go, and so I'm watching it unfold in time, and I'm getting to see these the vision go from a dream to a reality within a 1 hour time period.
Yep.
And when I have projects like getting the kids room done, typically it will start with a problem. There's a problem statement, like something's not working,
Yep.
the clothes are all over the floor all the time continuously,
Yep.
or we just had the 5-year-old move in with the 10-year-old, and now they're each cohabitating in a space. How can we make a creative space that both of them are getting their needs met? And so being able to sit down and try to advance the moves with how can we get the end result from the beginning, that is a game. And it becomes, each project, each build becomes a game to me to see what's the problem statement, how do we attack that problem statement and create something by the end so that everybody feels like a winner when the project is completed. And so a big part, I think, of playing successfully is having a moment where you feel like you're winning, and having that moment of going from addressing a problem statement and then being able by the end to have recognized that you go away feeling like you've won at something. And a big part of successful play is, even when you fail, being able to recognize that you have won something. You've won self-respect, you've won another try to do it again, you've won an opportunity to be creative, you've won in the venue that you have tried at, and you're leading the response that you have been led to is that we're not necessarily always going to end up in first place, but have we moved the needle forward
Yeah, but
in
there's
what we've
times
played with.
there's times when I was pressing in to the aesthetic of holding the club in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were talking about, it's Dr. Cook as he has like a kinesthetic trigger called swing, plane, turn, turn. It's a 4-step algorithm.
Use your pen and show.
Yeah, and if this is the golf club here, got the
He's holding it straight up and down.
shaft of the golf club here. There's a breaking of the wrist. That is, because if you're going to come through, the key move for the golf club coming through is there's like a box between the golf club and your arm. Anyway, some people could care less about golf, but there's a move like this that comes through. But in order to do that, you have to be at the top of your swing. You have to have your hand ahead of the club. So what Dr. Cook talked about was basically start your swing out with it already above. And the way that you do that is you build a rhythm of hinge, plane, turn, turn. And if you hinge and plane at the same time, you'll be in the right position at the top. Well, I started working on that aesthetic, on that kinesthetic feel in my hand, and I started enjoying that process of being in the right position at the top. I knew it, and I started doing that. And I remember I had the best 9 holes. I mean, I think I was 4 under par through 11 holes. It was incredible to be able to really double down and press into the thing that
Is
you
Dr.
like.
Cook the one that talks about your level of satisfaction with how that whole
He does,
getting
yeah.
to?
Well, you read the White Book. I don't know what you call it. It's like the Beatles' White Album. It's just a white book.
Yeah. Greatness.
Greatness. Yeah, the book, $5 book that costs $100,
Yeah.
but
But I
not
just
available
remember,
in
I forget
stores
which ones that
or online.
we were reading about, and was talking about, like, each time you get up to the hole, calming yourself, forgetting the last hole, doing all that stuff, becoming fully present, and then being able to keep score of how you hit that
It's
hole, and it
what he was
was
talking about is
satisfaction of
it wasn't satisfaction. It was being present over the ball.
okay, being present over there.
And basically, on your scorecard, you make a dot for every time that you are present over the ball through your whole pre-shot routine, and that becomes the KPI. And I hadn't done that for a long time, and I played with my father-in-law, Richard, a couple of weeks ago, and I think I shot 80 or 82, which for a retired professional golfer is pathetic from a tournament score perspective. But I hadn't played a round of golf in a year. I hadn't even picked up a club really in a year because I've been working so hard, and I had not been playing. And I remember I kept score, and there was only 6 or 7 shots out of 80 that I wasn't present for, which I thought was really good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stretched my expectation of what I thought was possible because I'm realizing, those 7 shots cost me 14. It was 14 strokes. Well, 80, I think it was 82. 82 minus 14 is 2 under.
So how can we apply that
Which is what I could have
to?
been at, I think. I'd stay present the whole time.
Do you think? Let's just hypothetical here. Let's just throw. We're playing here on this podcast. We're playing.
We are being silly.
Do you think that if you, because I know the answer that I would give, but do you think that if you found yourself in a job or profession that wasn't your first choice and you're actually not liking it or you haven't liked it,
Oh man.
do you think that if you could somehow, without having to quit your job and go get a new one, without having to make a major life adjustment, do you think that there's something in your brain that you could turn over to where you could make the decision that I'm going to find a way to play in this role that I don't like, in this role that I am just majorly resistant to, and I've been, because so much of it is attitude, and when we start telling ourselves, oh, I hate this, and I don't want to wake up, and blah, 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 we're kind of perpetuating what we feel like we're hating. Do you think that you could come to a place where if you wake up one day and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to start playing, I'm just gonna have a good time, could you change?
I think you can. I think you need to be really clear on what your values are. This goes back to Dr. DeMartini. And what the aesthetics, if my number one value is kind of getting to that alpha, delta, and theta states of mind through meditation, if that's number one, and I do that every day, if number two is doing my job the best of my ability, and that's a value, if that's a value to me, it doesn't matter what my values are to anybody else, but if it matters to me that I do this job at a world-class level, then I can break it down into pieces and systematize it and productize the actual deliverable of what I'm doing for work, and then cover health. Like those are my top 3 values. My top value is that meditation time of being able to go to like another place, be in the zone, thinking for meditation. Number 2 is health. Number 3 is order and structure and discipline and detail, making sure bills are paid on time, making sure car is washed, making sure credit cards are all paid, making sure that taxes and that you know where your pipeline is. And then number 4, doing the job really at a world-class level. If you know that those are your values and you believe that those are what is most important to you, then I think you can find that sense of meaning in a job that may not be exactly what you want. The other thing is you'll start doing that job at a pretty high level. You'll stay in great shape. You'll stay in great spiritual shape. You'll be structured and ordered and disciplined. And because of that, your self-image will go up and you'll naturally divest yourself of things that do not fit the scenario that you think you ought to be in.
Well, when it comes to, I have people that get stuck when it comes to their house and their style and their decor design. And they feel like they see people on Instagram, they see the shows, they see the things, and they start to feel bad because they don't know how to put it all together, or maybe they feel out of
Well, and let's be honest,
style.
you have a gift, Jessica.
Well,
You've done 14 houses for us over the 27 years we've been married.
but I always want to go into their space, and I always want to take it. I want to listen to them because I feel like they do have a sense of what they like. You're not going to go buy something and actually put money to onto the counter and actually make an
Unless you like
exchange
it, unless you know you
unless
like it.
there's something in it that is drawing you to it. Like maybe it is a color that subconsciously reminds you of your grandmother, or it's a
Sure.
textile that subconsciously like there was a kid growing up that had sweaters like that. And so I feel like my job is to go into their space and to be able to say, okay, you're surrounded by things that whether you would like to admit it or not, you've subconsciously approved of all of these different transactions, and it's my job to come in and to help you play with it. Like, let's play with it. Let's try this thing, but we'll bring in a couple new pieces because we can make a vignette, or we can like get a
Or I've
piece to
seen you
bring it
repurpose,
together.
take table legs or change
Yeah.
colors or frame. I've
Yeah.
seen you frame
Let's like
things that
maybe
aren't even pictures,
translate it a little
but it looks great.
differently, but you should never feel like you have to. I guess my point is, like, when we do come to the point to where, like we were talking about, can you turn what you don't like into play and then like flip your job around? Like, I feel like we can all be able to say, I've been given the tools that I need. I am fully equipped to be able to enjoy my life and play, because let's be honest, that's what we're really talking about when we're talking about play, is enjoy going from not enjoying our life to actually being excited to wake up in the
Totally. You and I
morning
rode, was
and
it today we
play.
rode bicycles
Yeah, we
down to go
rode
get coffee?
bicycles to the coffee shop, and it's like we have the bicycles here, but if we never ride them, if
Yeah.
we never even use them, then we're not
And
giving ourselves the
granted, let me
opportunity.
talk about for a second. This is really good. One of the things that I rejected for a really long time, you called it business hours. The modern day, I think, for those that work from home and that are always available to their job, um, modern day they call it time boxing or time blocking. And I have been playing. Part of the reason why I feel like my life is so easy right now is because I have been playing so much in the cracks and crevices around a fully time boxed series of, I don't know what's 16 hours a day times 7. I don't know what that is. 70 plus 42.
Yeah.
16 times 7, yeah, is 70 plus 42 is what, 112? 112 hours a week of, let's say, what's 164 minus 112? I'm trying to think if that's right. 52 divided by 7. It's 7.5 hours. That's about right. It's about 7.5 hours a day of sleep. So I've got about 112 hours a day of awake time. Doesn't mean I'm working 112 hours a week, but I've got 112 hours a week of awake time. I've got 52 hours a week of sleep time, and about a 2-to-1 ratio, I guess you could say, almost. And I've got 112 hours of time boxed time. Is it every single second of every single day? No, but it's probably 80 or 90 hours a week that's boxed, and then another 20 or 30 hours of rest that's boxed or blocked, or family time, cooking dinner, swimming in the swimming pool, reading books, whatever. And because I started getting serious about putting all my top priority lists, right? If you got three, let's say you got three big projects at work, you got a deal that you're working on, you've got financial management, and you've got some legal stuff, let's just say. And if each of those things took 20 hours a week, that's 60 hours. Well, what's the other 52 hours a week? What's that? If you go and block out 20 or 30 of those 52 hours and put the family stuff, your health, going to the gym, what ends up happening is you start living your life according to your values. And there's a whole lot of extra time in the cracks that you can play and have fun, carefree. Like we went today. We got our nails done today. I did get my toenails done today. I went down to the place for that. I picked up my car, got brakes done for the car, went to the tire shop because I need new brakes desperately. I was down to the sensors on if anybody knows cars knows what those are. I took the car to the tire shop. We rode our bikes downtown. I had a couple of long phone conversations, several meetings for work. Did some stuff around email, and still had a great day because I'm not sitting here in my downtime thinking about what I should be doing because I didn't block out enough time. So you might think, oh my God, I can't believe he's talking about having 80 hours a week blocked and boxed in. But if 50 hours or 60 hours a week is what it takes to do the minimums for your job, your family, your health, rest, taking care of the house, laundry, all that stuff, and you actually put it in the calendar and do it, or at least try to do it when you have it set, I think what you find out is there's a whole lot of time left over to play and have a good time and have fun. And if you can start to capitalize on that, your life will start to feel, I think, a lot easier because you're getting a lot of playtime in, which I didn't. I kind of prided myself on never taking vacations for 10 years or doing anything fun. And then golf, which was not fun. Golf was just work because I did something I really enjoyed, but I did it as a job
Yeah.
in addition to my job.
Well, I think when we're successfully playing, which is the
Another reason
whole
why I didn't do as well as I wanted to do.
leading to a response, is we should be like when we're playing and you are successfully playing and you trip and fall, you're gonna laugh at you're gonna laugh
Totally.
at being an idiot.
Oh, I laughed at being an idiot playing golf because I wasn't
Yeah.
taking it seriously because
Yeah.
I was having fun because I didn't have any expectations at all.
Yeah. So when we can laugh,
What if we did work that way?
And what if we did work that way? Like, what if we did work from the position of laughing,
Yeah, totally.
of getting to that point where we the last the Y in P.L.A.Y will be it's yielding, basically yielding to a higher, like a higher plane or a higher, whatever you want to call it. But when we've successfully played, we are like you get tired if you've played a game of tag football, or if you've played a game of chess and you've like tried and you've given it everything you've got and you're 100% present and you lose, but you go, like there's this yield, there's this complete surrender by the time that you are done playing. And what I hear you talking about with the time blocking is you've gotten to a point now where you've seen the value of blocking out time to where you can be 100% present. And by the end of that 1 hour or that 2 hours, you go, man, that was really good. And that's what we're talking about when we're leading to a response. Like, successful play should get us to the point to where if we've played properly, we are going, and that's why I think with kids, like in daycare or in the kids just got back from kids summer camp, when they've played hard, they're ready for a nap. They're ready to.
They want to go swimming.
They want to swim and they
2
want
hours
to
in
go
the
out.
afternoon,
And all the
guess what?
parents go,
Mom gets her coffee date and her.
But that's a result
home
of
shows
playing
because
hard, and they've
kids played
had,
hard.
and they
Yep.
wake up and they go, "Man, that was so much fun!" And I wanted,
That's
can we
super
do it
funny.
again? How can we do it again? And so, if we could live our lives in a way to where we go, "Oh man, I just want to. Could I get that last hour again? Can I just do that again and again? Could every day actually feel like play?" And you said it in the last episode. Yes, the all-in state is possible.
All in all the time is possible. I think by being present. I think the all in state is by being present. And what we see is that being present is not about paying attention. It's about removing distractions. The reason why time boxing works is time boxing basically says I am living my values. Because I'm living my values, because I'm getting the meditation time, because I'm getting the health, because I've got structure and order, because I'm aligning my activities to the most highest priorities in my day, and working hard in the job. Or when I say working hard, just doing the work, doing the stuff that matters most. It takes away the distractions of the sense of guilt and remorse of I'm not doing enough, which happened when I wasn't boxing out my days. When I was at work, I felt like I should have been playing because I was exhausted. I just worked all the time. And when I would actually rest for the few hours, I would feel like I should have been working because I just wasn't getting stuff done and I wasn't getting deadlines. So if you're not getting stuff done, if you're missing deadlines, that is not a sign of procrastination or something is wrong. It's a sign of ambition. I mean, being oversubscribed is a sign of ambition. It is a sign of ambition. But if we're oversubscribed, oftentimes what it means is if you have priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 that align to your values, and you're not taking the time to box out enough time in the calendar so that you systematize by calendaring, systematize by boxing out enough resources to get that 1, 2, and 3 priorities done, you're going to be stressed and you're going to miss deadlines versus playing because you're getting everything done. There's no remorse and you're present all the time. You're present for the work you're doing, present for a podcast or a conversation. We were present today at coffee. We were present when we were riding our bicycles together in traffic. We were present driving to the nail salon. You were present working with Madeline to get your passports for your trip coming up. So all of those things, I think, they're fun, they're entertaining. It gives us an ability to relax because we're not thinking about stuff we're not doing.
Yeah, I think that, and to close out this morning, I thought it was such a interesting, and I'm sure you picked up on it too. We went to coffee and we rode our bikes, so that was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
And we ended up going and we sat in Starbucks, and I was giving you a hard time for being on your phone. I'm like, put it away. I didn't, what did I say? I say, I didn't ask you and Bob, which I affectionately named your phone, along.
My backpack's name is Ted.
And so you put it away because you're like, I want to be present. I want to put it away. And then it wasn't maybe but like 10 minutes later that father and his 2 sons came and sat right down next to us. Like, it was kind of awkward because it was 4 leather chairs and they're all facing each other. And the 2 boys, each independently, both had iPads. And Dad sat on a stool behind him on his phone.
Yep.
And they literally just sat, and I thought it was kind of funny because I was giving you a hard time, but we put it away. And here we are just sitting there drinking our coffee and looking at each other and talking and being
in the
present.
moment and enjoying it and having fun.
I'm looking at them going, wow, they're like their son's probably 8 and 10. No, the little guy.
The little guy in the stroller. I'm mixing.
The 2 boys on their iPads.
Yeah, they were like 8 and 10.
They were like 8 and 10, and the dad, and they were happy. And I'm not dissing on anybody because trust me, my kids have iPad time, but I'm not getting the feeling like they play a lot. Like, I'm not getting the vibe.
And being on our phones is not.
No, that's why I really wanted to make sure that with this 4-week series on play, we differentiate between rest,
maybe it could be
because there is an importance of rest and recovery. That is something completely different than the active motion of play, which is something that is needing an action that has to be done. Playing and resting are 2 totally different things. I could see where the dad and the 2 kids might need to recover and rest and have to kind of zone out, because there's plenty of times when we feel like we need to zone out and just watch a movie and chill. But when we're talking about day in and day out, successful, feeling as if I'm going to bed a winner, that's going to come with being present. It's going to come with successfully playing. And when we are tuned out and checked out, like, are we becoming a society where we just want to tune out, we just want to recover all day long? But what if you're just trying to recover and you haven't done any effort? Play to me is effort. Rest and recovery is a result of having played hard. Play hard, work hard, whatever you want to call it, rest hard. But if we just become a society where all we're doing is recovering, then...
But the thing is when you actually recover, which I don't think being on your phone is recovering because it requires your attention. Yeah. Right? Recovery is being bored and relaxing. These
particular kids were watching TV on their iPads.
Yeah, which I don't think that's recovery. I think you're paying attention to something and you're working. Yeah. And you're being worked by whatever the program is. But I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing a generation that has, I mean, we've been on smartphones for a generation. I mean, a generation I think is 18 years, 18 to 20 is kind of what they say, but 2008.
Yeah.
Right. You could say BlackBerries before, but they didn't really have full web browsing capabilities. But like actual web browsing with apps that you could download that become ubiquitous, like it's 2008. That's 15 years ago. It's almost an entire generation. that we've been on our phone. Like we've been on our phones for a generation.
Well, when did the Game Boy, the handheld, when did the first handheld come out? Was that 95?
Oh, early 90s, 92, 93.
89.
Okay. Yeah, I remember going to Steve
'Cause-
Wozniak's house when I was in
Yeah.
high school, like second year of high school. Would have been 89 or 90.
Way to just throw that in there.
And I'm just saying, he lives
just
down the street from us when I was in Cupertino.
Oh, when I was at Waz's house.
My friend.
He was playing
And
his.
I remember going to Steve Wozniak's house when I was a kid, and he was on a Game Boy playing Tetris.
Yeah.
It must have been 1989, 1990.
89. Yeah.
Yeah, right in there. So this would have been the first couple of weeks probably that a Game Boy was out, but he was playing it on his phone, or it was like a phone. You know, it was a big heavy phone. But I remember that, and I was thinking, wow, he's got a handheld video game in his hand, and it would have been 89 or 90 somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But
so that would fit your whole generation of handhelds, something a device
we've
or
been
something
on
in
handheld
our
devices
hands.
for a generation. Well, in that case, I mean, 89 is 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
35 years.
Yeah, so successfully, so I guess our challenge then as parents, as the generation that's attempting to enlighten the future or whatever, leave something behind, leave some sort of legacy behind, would be to get people back into participating in, like, being present through
and the
play.
goal, by the way, I mean, you're watching this, listen to this, or we're recording it on mobile phones. So the goal of us talking about playing is not to say, you shouldn't be on your phone. Look, be on your phones. Like, we're on our phones 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours a day. However, there's also an incredible level of, I'm not a Andrew Huberman talking about all the dopamine chemicals and stuff in your brain, but there are chemical science results and studies and features that talk about this, that can back it up. But there's this life outside of work. And counterintuitively, the discovery that I've made in the last couple of months is that I didn't know that life existed until I disciplined myself to schedule the work.
Okay, so while we're winding out, the last part here,
Counterintuitive.
let's go through 5 things each that we haven't done yet. And I'm not going to say it's a bucket list item, but 5 things
I crossed my bucket list
that
off at
we
40.
would want to try that might be something fun that we've always thought about trying that we haven't tried yet. Okay, so mine, number 1 would be archery. I think that would be fun to do something like go and take some classes or do something archery.
Okay.
Fencing. I've always thought that would be a lot of fun.
Live in a castle.
To fence, to take some sort of fencing classes.
Be a princess and live in a castle.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to be
archery.
I'm going to do archery and I'm going to fence.
Learn to speak with a British accent.
What about pottery? Like doing the whole spinning thing and like making a bowl or some sort of pottery.
Archery and fencing.
So let's see, archery, fencing, pottery. What's something else that I would want to try or do that I haven't done yet? I think travel. I would love to be able to do Christine and I and Mark, we talk about taking a train in Africa, like going on an actual train. And I just can imagine seeing the wild animals like running alongside the train as we're cruising down the train tracks and in a dining car with so traveling, that would be that would be play for me. Pottery, archery, and fencing. So that's 4. And then I'm trying, what would be one of my top 5 things that I would like to be able to do someday?
You want to do your Cookie Boys?
Yeah, I definitely want to launch the Cookie Boys and be able to go into business as an entrepreneur that's able to actually be able to see going from the drawing of the back of the napkin of what I can see having a successful business that serves the public to all the way through to completion and the manifestation. So business, I've got some playtime that I'd like to do there. But I was just trying to think, like, if we're going to encourage people to do something that they have never done before, maybe, okay, singing on stage in front of an audience, that would be probably something like
Singing.
karaoke, like playing. That would be a play thing that I haven't done yet. That I think that would be.
You've sung on stage
That would
before.
lead. I have at church, but I haven't like done it like
yeah.
with,
Yeah.
you know. So, anyways,
Okay.
okay. So those are my 5. Do you have 5 things
I'm
that?
gonna make sure I got these down. Archery, fencing, pottery, travel, and singing.
Yes. What about your 5 things? You've mentioned to me before doing open mic night, like with your guitar.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to get to the point where I was good enough.
Yeah.
That I was happy enough with the product that I could do open guitar mic night.
Okay.
I also really want to learn how to play trumpet.
Okay.
And trumpet is super hard, but we're working through it.
Okay.
But to be able to have the time to play trumpet, guitar, piano, clarinet, and then I really crave, when I took my trip to New Orleans a few weeks ago, I really craved, like there were guys that were on their off day, but they'd jump in for a song or two in a set. They'd be called out of the audience.
I've had I've been with my dad
Yeah,
when
your
he
dad
did that
could do
with
that. He
playing
could play
drums.
drums with John Mayer. I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's super, super good. But I would love to be able to just jump in and play trumpet or jump in and sing and feel trained. Like I love singing. I love singing. Singing to me feels great. That's the good news, as John Maxwell says. The bad news is I'm not very good at it. So being trained as a singer, being trained as a pianist, being trained as a trumpet player, guitar, anything having to do with music, I've always loved music a lot. This is, I was thinking, sometimes I pretend to be Matlock. That's from my house guest. I've always wanted a Grumman Goose airplane. It's a plane that lands on water. It's from the 40s, and it was in the Indiana Jones movie at
with
the
the big
very beginning.
pontoons at the.
The pontoons. That's a Grumman Goose.
Okay.
And it's a plane that lands on the pontoons on water, and 2/3 of the world's surface is covered in water, so you got plenty of places to land. 1937. So you have the Art Deco style.
Are there little wheels on the bottom of the pontoons? Like, what happens if you have to?
There's landing gear when you have to land on land. Yeah,
All right.
it'll
Like,
land
how
on
does
land.
that do that?
It'll land on land.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's a hand lever. There's like a lever that you do to put them down. But it's a cargo plane. It's used in the military. There's probably maybe 800 still in existence.
Okay.
And they're about $1 million a piece, so it's not they're not cheap. But I would love to remodel and trick out a Grumman Goose hydro landing airplane. I'd love to rebuild a 356
Nice.
Sportster Porsche, which was the predecessor for the 911. They were made. I think Dave Fetterman's gonna kill me on this one. I think late 50, like 59 through 63 were the years, but they're gorgeous and super fun little convertibles. I'd love to do that. So I would say music, flight, remodeling a plane, remodeling a Porsche, 356 Porsche. Travel, but I've traveled a lot. So I mean, there's places I want to go. I want to go to Prague, and I want to go to Istanbul, and I want to see. I'd love to play golf in St. Andrews, but those are kind of like destination things versus like a lifestyle of traveling, which I've had for a long time, just being in business. But I think the mastery of musical instruments. I want to be able to read music. I look at music and it just looks like dots on a page to me. It doesn't mean anything to me, and I'd like to understand how to read music on the staff. Obviously, build businesses. I still love building businesses. I just enjoy making customers happy and coming up with stories and reasons that are wow. Every startup that I've ever done had a wow story, more than just we're going to do it cheaper than XYZ person. And I'd like to just keep playing golf. I mean, so I guess music, flight, cars, golf, travel.
Well, there you have
That
it.
fits.
There you
That
have
sounds like
it,
fun to me.
folks. If you are wanting to have a wow life experience, I would
Make a
highly
wow life.
suggest adding some more
A
play
wow
into your
life.
life, making sure that play provokes a change, making sure that it leads you to respond differently. Maybe you just wake up a little bit differently in the morning because you're like, wow, I had this play that I did made an impact in my life. This
I want to
thing
read.
that
I want
did
books and
made
time
an
to read them.
impact.
Books and time to read them.
Amen.
book some time to read them.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for supporting the Jeff Heilman Project. We're almost at 100 subscribers on YouTube, and
we're at like 25. If you include the reels are actually doing well.
Yeah.
We're at over 25,000 views.
That's awesome.
From reels and
that's
because
of you guys. So
because of Andrew.
Sorry, what?
What's that, Andrew?
80 videos.
Yeah, 80 videos at like 20,000. So
that's awesome.
Whatever 80 into 20 is.
We certainly appreciate you. 3.5 months?
Yeah, that's, March, April, May, June, July.
3.5 months. We certainly hope that this has been the success has been a result of play.
It's quality over quantity, right?
Yeah.
As much as we'd love to have a quadrillion people watching the show, I think the most important thing is the sense of visceral interaction that we like to have with the audience. And I was walking in the chiropractor's office the other day, and the gal, who I won't shout her out, but the gal that helps behind the counter, she's great and been super helpful in just me coming to health in the process. She goes, "Hey, I listened to your podcast the other day." And I was like, "You did?" And of course she did, right? Because I text 400 people, three times. I've probably done a 400 person individual copy paste shout out like 3 or 4 times, and she's on the list of the people. So I did that, and then I go into the chiropractor who's like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast." I'm like, "Wow, you did? That's great." And then I'm driving home, and somebody calls me up and says, "Hey," they called me like within a 10-minute period. They called me up and said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. They really liked it." And I was talking to a gal on the phone today that I was not expecting. She goes, "Hey, I listened to the podcast of you and Madeline that I saw from LinkedIn." And I feel like we have an incredible life that's better than we deserve. A lot of times, from a finance perspective, we make way more money than we made when we started. We have a great lifestyle. We travel. We got great friends, all kinds of cool business stuff that we get to do. Now we get to do this podcast. We have all these kids that are doing all kinds of neat things. Jessica and I are going away this weekend for an anniversary trip, which will be fun. And I feel like we live days of heaven upon the earth. Not every single day. Certainly we have our non-Instagram moments, but I feel like we have a great life and we have a ton of fun. And to the degree that we can hand you that through the phone, through the recordings, through this podcast, through the YouTubes, and that there's some way that we can translate those emotions into something that you can feel on the other end of this, to me, that's awesome. That's what we're doing.
Well, there's that saying, and we'll close with this: if you're not standing on the edge,
taking up too much
then
room.
you're taking up too much room. And I believe that we have just really wanted
we have been
to
grinding for a long time.
We have been really wanting to only live once.
Yep.
And in our only living once, we want to continue to push and try whatever we can to just sap out of it.
Suck
everything,
the sap out of life, Thoreau
everything
said.
that we possibly can, because we don't want to be just mucking around, as they say on Bluey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't want to just
and
be
the Queen
mucking
doesn't
around.
use what she said.
Dunny.
Dunny.
She doesn't
the Queen
say
doesn't say Dunny.
So that definitely is an instance in which we have that's a tell that we have a 5-year-old at home. But
she wore shoes. We were watching that this morning.
Anyways,
Unicourse. Unicourse. If you haven't seen the Bluey episode of Unicourse, if you don't know anything about Bluey, then don't waste your time. But I think it's a great show.
Well,
but if you know Bluey and you haven't seen the Unicourse episode, and then isn't there a new Unicourse episode?
Yes, there are.
There's so many episodes of Bluey. I can't get them all in, but they're great.
Use
your big girl bark and have a great rest of your day.
Have a great one, guys. Thanks. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for listening.